Hello and welcome to another episode of the Classical Republican Book Review. Once again, this is part 2 of the Machiavellian moment. Now, we're going to be discussing chapters 5 through 8. Okay, this might be a long one, so go ahead and do your dishes or fold your laundry or whatnot as you get ready to learn and become enlightened. Because this is G.J.A. Pocock's The Machiavellian Moment, the one that really revived classical republicanism in the late 20th century. And so, it inspired a lot of classical republicans in academia. And they were, I don't know if we would have all the great, all those great scholars who have been writing about it since the 70s and 80s, 90s, and into the 21st century. So we have a lot to be grateful for J.G.A. Pocock. Okay, so let's start off with chapter 5. So this is about Guicciardini and citizenship. And for those of you who don't know, Guicciardini was a contemporary of Machiavelli. And so he lived through all that, the expulsion of the Medici, the rise of the Republic, and then the return of the Medici. And this chapter discusses the dichotomy of the greater or lesser involvement of government. So you have, the one and the few. So the one would be, there would be a lifetime appointment, and that makes it less partisan. You have the few who are debating, formulating, and proposing laws, and then with the many, they are able to elect. So you have the distribution of offices and legislation in the way of assent to laws. So, the distribution of offices by the many frees the few from and the one from dependence on any one faction or one person. And the assent to laws, so that gives it the feel that laws are made by all. And the Grand Council cannot alter the government. Okay, or any group cannot or person cannot alter the government. And not all men can aspire to the highest office. So this is. With Guicciardini, there's very much more of a aristocratic bent here. This chapter also talks about ambition, factionalism, and the citizen militia, and these are all very Republican topics. Then in chapter 6, we have the we talk about Machiavelli's Prince, and so it's all about the Prince, and so there's a lot of I've talked about the Prince before, so I don't really need to go into it here. It talks about the themes Fortuna and Virtù, and how you need to have a lot of one or the other, but a balance of both is what you get most of the time. On to chapter 7. Now that's about Rome and Venice, the Machiavelli's comparison in the discourse between Rome and Venice, and also in the Art of War. Art of War is a very important classical Republican writing because it's all about the citizen soldier. It's not like Sun Tzu's Art of War. It's really about the uplifting the citizen soldier rather than mercenaries. Or even full-time soldiers. So I guess today you would say, but even though it doesn't, I don't know if it applies so much today. But there still is a difference between, in the United States of America, the regular army and the National Guard. So in chapter 7, it summarizes the arguments of the discourse and contrasts Rome to Venice and Sparta. Venice and Sparta. So that's the expansionary powers and the powers that maintain their states. And of course a lot about Citizen soldiers. All right. We carry on with the cause of the fall of the Roman Republic, not the Empire, the Roman Republic. The distribution of lands were controlled by soldier politicians. So armies became factions of generals, and this is the common thesis of Harrington, Montesquieu, Jefferson, and Gibbon. Pocock points out that Machiavelli believes that the citizen soldier is so important, and the republic needs to, and also that the republic needs to dominate other states like Rome did. In chapter 8, this is about Guicciardini's dialogo on dialogue on the regime of Florence, and again, very aristocratic. He promotes aristocracy. Most of the chapter is a good summary of the book, which is not available in English, hasn't been translated, although he did have parts, and a lot of the footnotes contain the text, but you can find the text today online. I guess when it came out, that in the 70s, that wasn't a thing. So really good to have that. There's a discussion on the Grand Council, how the Grand Council makes new laws and altering old, but not actually, not really doing that, but just consenting to the altering, or the making of laws and altering of old laws. Other bodies would craft laws in Guicciardini's ideal state, and the Grand Council would assent or dissent. And this is important because you're going to see that later on, especially with Harrington. Today, to have like a certain, I guess we do have that today in our own politics when you have a referendum. So that's something that there's some similarity there if you look at the entire voting public as the Grand Council. So there's a similarity that we don't really we're not able to debate and discuss the issues. We just have to vote yes or no on it. The Grand Council would also elect most of the offices. So then again, we're like the Grand Council. There'd be a Senate. They'd serve for a life term. That's interesting. That I believe that came up in the U.S. constitutional debates back in 1770 or 1786. Other bodies composed of men of experience. Of course, it would be men because women didn't participate in politics at this time. And that it would be composed of 150 people. The Gonfalonier would be elected for life selected in a similar manner as the Doge was selected in Venice. That was really interesting. And so this is a comparison of Machiavellian Guicciardini later in life. I want to share this quote here on page 269. It says, Il Principe and the Ricordi, which is something that Guicciardini wrote later in his life, both depict the individual in the post-civic world. But Machiavelli's individual is a ruler seeking to shape events through virtue. In the sense of audacity, Guicciardini's a patrician seeking to adapt himself to events through prudence. Both men hold that audacity and prudence are appropriate in different circumstances, that these circumstances are brought to us by fortuna, and that it is exceedingly difficult for the individual to tell what they require. Okay, so they're at the end of their lives. They've seen the Republic rise and fall, and so they're reacting to that and trying to understand that. And until next time, long live the Republic.